In the gentle land of Lily Pond Kingdom, where cattails swayed like sleepy dancers and dragonflies zipped by like sparkly arrows, there lived a very important frog. His name? Sir Croaks-a-Lot. His job? Royal Knight of the Pond. His specialty? Loud, heroic croakings and hopping in shiny armor. Sir Croaks-a-Lot wore a polished acorn helmet and had a tiny green cape that fluttered in the breeze like a lily pad flag. Every morning, he leaped out of his little mud hut with a soft boing and marched across the pond bridge made of sticks and moss. But lately, something odd had been happening. It all started one blustery morning when Sir Croaks-a-Lot stood on guard near the Queen's water lily throne. He puffed out his chest, stood tall on his hind legs, and kerchoo! A sneeze so mighty it blew the petals off the royal daisies. Queen Bettelina blinked and said, "Sir Croaks-a-Lot, was that you?" The knight cleared his throat and bowed deeply. "No, your bloominess. Perhaps it was the breeze?" The queen tilted her crown of clover and gave him a curious look, but said nothing. Sir Croaks-a-Lot quickly hopped behind a toadstool, rubbing his tickly nose. He never sneezed. Knights weren't supposed to sneeze, were they? That evening, Sir Croaks-a-Lot tiptoed to his lily pad mirror and inspected his green reflection. "Perhaps I'm just a little dusty," he told himself. "Maybe one sneeze isn't so bad." But the next morning it happened again. Kerchoo! This time his sneeze blasted across the training field, flipping 3 tiny shields and knocking poor Squire Snail into a soft mud puddle. "Bless you, Sir Croaks-a-Lot!" shouted the snail, flopping upright. "Hoops a leap," muttered the knight, wiping his nose on a leaf. From that day on, the sneezes kept sneaking up on him, louder, sillier, and splashier each time. He tried plugging his nose with moss. Didn't work. He tried sniffing lavender. Made it worse. He even tried humming while hopping, but that just made him sneeze in rhythm. Kerchoo! Kerchoo! The royal pond was in chaos. The lily pads were upside down. Tadpoles were dizzy from swirling currents. Even the fish swam sideways just to dodge the bubbles. Sir Croaks-a-Lot was getting nervous. What if the Queen asked him to stop guarding the royal lily pad? What if the other knights giggled behind their reeds? Sir Croaks-a-Lot was getting nervous. What if the Queen asked him to stop guarding the royal lily pad? What if the other knights giggled behind their reeds and laughed at him? He had to find the cause of the sneezes. So, under the starry sky, Sir Croaks-a-Lot gathered his things, a mini scroll, a pencil carved from bark, and his map of Lily Pond Kingdom. He put on his quietest boots, made of spider webs and dandelion fluff, and hopped off into the night. "I shall solve the mystery of the mighty sneeze," he whispered. And with that, the brave little frog knight began his secret quest. Nose twitching, and heart-thumping. Tomorrow, he'd visit the wise willow tree. But for now, he curled under a curled leaf blanket and hoped not to sneeze in his sleep. Grr-gim! He plugged his nose quickly. Not tonight, Sneeze. Not tonight. The morning sun stretched its golden fingers across Lily Pond Kingdom as Sir Croaks-a-Lot set off on his hush-hush quest. His acorn helmet gleamed, his green cape flapped gently in the breeze, and his nose still twitching. Not today, Sneeze, he whispered. Today I find answers. With a map tucked under his arm and a determined hop in his step, he crossed the dew-dotted clover field, careful not to wake the snoozing ladybugs. His destination, the Whispering Willow, a grand old tree known for knowing just about everything in the kingdom. The Whispering Willow stood at the edge of the bog, its long leafy arms swaying like they were waving hello. Its bark was wrinkled with age, and its voice, when it spoke, was softer than the softest lullaby. Sir Croaks-a-Lot bowed deeply. Good morning, wise willow. The tree rustled in reply. Good morning, brave frog. What brings the kingdom's loudest croaker to my roots? Sir Croaks-a-Lot cleared his throat politely and climbed onto a stone near the base of the trunk. I've been sneezing loudly, unstoppably. It's not very nightly, you see. Sir Croaks-a-Lot cleared his throat politely and climbed onto a stone near the base of the trunk. I've been sneezing, Willow, loudly, unstoppably. It's not very nightly, you see. The willow hummed gently, leaves curling in thought. A frog night with a mighty sneeze? That is unusual. Have you changed your lily pad soap? No. Sat in too close to the sneeze berries? No, ma'am. I even tried humming through it. The tree chuckled, shaking a few loose leaves. Very well. Tell me, do your sneezes happen anywhere special? Sir Croaks-a-Lot thought for a moment, scratching his chin with his webby fingers. They always seem to happen near the royal garden. That's where the daisies flew, and the tulips flipped, and the time the Snee launched Squire Snail halfway into a teacup. The tree rustled louder. Ah, the royal garden. That may be the clue. Sir Croaks-a-Lot leaned closer. You think there's something in the garden? I think, said the tree, you should follow the pollen. Pollen? Said Sir Croaks-a-Lot, blinked. Like flower dust? Exactly. There's a new plant blooming in the royal garden. Not one I planted, not one that should be there at all. The willow's branch pointed toward a sparkling trail of golden dust, barely visible in the morning light. It glittered on the breeze and floated like feather fluff. Follow that, dear knight, whispered the willow. It may lead you to your sneezes. Sir Croaks-a-Lot saluted. Thank you, Whispering Willow. You're a tree of great wisdom and excellent wiggle branching. He set off immediately, nose twitching, eyes wide,
following the glittery pollen trail. Through the daisy beds, past the sleepy sunflower hill, he hopped carefully and quietly. The pollen was thickest near a patch of tall, pink flowers with frilly petals and spotted stems. "Huh," he croaked, rubbing his nose again. "I don't remember these growing here." He tiptoed around the flowers, observing them closely. They shimmered strangely. Their small tickly, like fizzy bubbles mixed with pepper and perfume. One sniff was all it took. Oh, pardon me. Ka-choo!
The sneeze was so big it popped a flower right out of the ground and startled a squirrel out of a hammock. "I'm sorry," Sir Croaks-a-Lot called after the fleeing squirrel. And then he knelt and inspected the strange plant. Just then, a tiny giggle came from the nearby bushes. Sir Croaks-a-Lot froze. "Who's there?" A little round head peeked out. It was a fairy, a very small one, with curly blue hair and sunflower boots. "Oh no," she groaned. "I was trying to fix that." "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to plant them so close to the palace." Sir Croaks-a-Lot stood tall. "You planted these sneeze flowers?" The fairy fluttered closer, looking sheepish. "They're called giggle blossoms. I brought them from the blossom borderlands to help the bees wake up early for spring, but I didn't think they'd make someone sneeze that much." Sir Croaks-a-Lot sniffled. "Well, they do. I sneezed off a whole lily once." "Oh, no," the fairy squeaked. "I can help. I have a pouch of unsneezed dust. It balances the giggle blossom's silly pollen. Just sprinkle it on the flowers, and poof, no more sneezes." Sir Croaks-a-Lot looked hopeful. "You're sure?" "Positive." She fluttered into the air and sprinkled sparkly gray dust onto the pink flowers. A soft puff of smoke rose, and suddenly the tickly scent was gone. He sniffed. Once, twice, nothing. No sneeze. The frog knight blinked. "I didn't sneeze." The fairy beamed. "It's fixed. Thank you for being brave and not blaming the bushes." Sir Croaks-a-Lot bowed. "Thank you for the sneeze dust, but next time, maybe plant the giggle blossoms far, far away from the royal gardens." "Deal," said the fairy with a grin, zipping off into the breeze. As Sir Croaks-a-Lot made his way back to the palace, he smiled for the first time in days. His armor gleamed again, his cape fluttered proudly, and his nose as calm as a cucumber. He whispered to himself, "No more sneezes. Sir Croaks-a-Lot is back." But just then, grrr. Nope. False alarm. He giggled. He whispered to himself, "No more sneezes. Sir Croaks-a-Lot is back." But just then, ka-chuck! Nope. False alarm. He giggled. Sir Croaks-a-Lot returned to the castle just as the sun stretched high into the sky. The lily bells rang out across the pond, and the dragonfly guards hovered in formation as he crossed the stone moss bridge. But something felt different. The air didn't tickle his nose anymore. No more surprise sneezes. No more flower dust fumbles. His brain just puffed proudly beneath his tiny acorn armor. He approached the queenly throne, where Queen Catalina sat sipping dew tea from a curled leaf cup. Her colder crown tilted as she peered at the frog knight with curious eyes. "Ah, Sir Croaks-a-Lot," she said, raising one royal eyebrow. "Your timing is perfect. We were just beginning to worry. that you'd been sneezed away." The other frogs chuckled softly. Sir Croaks-a-Lot bowed deeply. "Your bloominess, I have solved the mystery of the monstrous sneezes." "Oh, I do?" asked Miss She, sitting up a bit straighter. He stood tall and proud. "There was an invader in the garden, a patch of giggle blossoms, brought in by a well-meaning fairy. Their pollen caused the sneezes, but fear not, I've spoken with the fairy and Crunchoo!" He stood tall and proud. There was an invader in the garden, a patch of giggle blossoms brought by a well-meaning fairy. Their pollen caused the sneezes, but fear not. I've spoken with the fairy and Crunchoo! Everyone jumped. But it wasn't Sir Croaks-a-Lot. It was Queen Petalina. She blinked twice, one eye still squinting. A single daisy petal floated gently down from her crown. Sir Croaks-a-Lot gasped, "Your bloominess!" The queen sniffled, blinking rapidly. "Oh dear, that's new." The royal assistant squirrel popped out from behind a teapot. "I did hear a kertoo, ma'am." The queen straightened her crown. "Well, maybe just a tiny sneeze." Sir Croaks-a-Lot narrowed his eyes thoughtfully. "Your Majesty, may I ask, have you been near the garden today?" She blinked again. "Yes, I had my morning tea beside the tulip row." He stepped closer, gently plucking a single pink petal from her shoulder. "Giggle blossom pollen. Oh, croak," she muttered. The court gasped again. A pigeon in a bow tie fainted from the balcony. Sir Croaks-a-Lot cleared his throat, trying not to smile. "It seems the giggle blossoms weren't just bothering me." "Well then," said Queen Petalina, wiping her nose with a petal-shaped tissue, "perhaps we need to stop hiding sneezes. Perhaps they're not such a disgrace after all." Sir Croaks-a-Lot blinked. "Really?" "Indeed." She stood up from her throne and stepped onto the royal lily stage. "From this moment forward, let us celebrate sneezes. If they must come, let them come loud and proud." The royal announcer Finch flapped onto the balcony and proclaimed, "Hear ye, by order of Queen Petalina, this day shall be remembered as the first ever royal sneeze-off." The frogs clapped, the snails cheered. A beetle in glasses yelled, "Kerwat!" Sir Croaks-a-Lot couldn't believe it. His sneezes, those loud, embarrassing kerchoos, were now royal worthy? The queen turned to him and smiled. "Sir Croaks-a-Lot, would you do us the honor of opening the competition?" His eyes widened. "You want me to sneeze?" She nodded, holding up a silver thimble of giggle blossom pollen. "Only if you're ready." He looked out across the pond at the frogs and the bees and the fairies who had gathered on lily pads and pebbles to watch. And suddenly, he wasn't embarrassed anymore. He took the pollen, he sniffed, and then, kerchoo! It echoed through the garden, shaking the clover trees and making the water ripple with joy. The crowd roared. Queen Petalina giggled and took her turn. Her sneeze was delicate but sparkly. Kerchoo! It went like a sneeze wearing fancy shoes. One by one, the royal court lined up to join. There was Lady Lizard with the squeaky kip-skip, Duke Duck with the mighty quack-choo, Squire Snail, whose sneeze took 20 seconds to build up, then came out as a shy choo. The giggle blossoms were soon surrounded by laughter and cheers. Even the fairy who caused it all returned and offered her sneeze dust, just in case anyone sneezed a bit too big. Sir Croaks-a-Lot stood to the side, watching his kingdom sneeze together and giggle together. He had solved the mystery. He had brought honesty to the royal court, and best of all, he no longer had to hide his twitchy nose. Queen Petalina awarded him a shiny green medal shaped like a clover. "For bravery," she said, pinning it to his chest, "and for the loudest sneeze in lily pond history." He beamed. No more shame, no more hiding, just Croaks, courage, and a few extra tissues in his belt pouch. As the sun set over Lily Pond Kingdom, the air buzzed with happiness and a few leftover sneezes, but no one minded anymore. Because even the mightiest frog knight sometimes needed to blow his nose. The next morning, the lily bells rang brighter than ever. Sir Croaks-a-Lot stood proudly beside Queen Petalina on the royal lily stage, surrounded by ribbons, balloons made from curled leaves, and floating flower garlands. Today was the very first Lily Pond Sneeze Parade. "I never thought I'd be part of a parade because of my nose," Sir Croaks-a-Lot whispered with a grin. Queen Petalina chuckled. "Nor did I think I'd sneeze beside my bravest knight and enjoy it. But here we are." The frogs were painting sneeze signs on lily leaves. "Kerchoo crew!" and "Blow your nose with pride." A group of tadpoles played kazoo-like instruments that tooted every time someone sneezed. The duck choir practiced their high-pitched achoo aria. Even the butterflies wore tiny handkerchief capes. Sir Croaks-a-Lot had a new outfit for the occasion. A shimmering green sash with glittery gold letters. Sir Sneeze-a-Lot. The Queen thought it was charming. But as the preparations bustled around him, something felt odd. Not bad, just curious. The garden no longer smelled like sneezy pollen. The fairy had sprinkled unsneezed dust on every giggle blossom, and yet Sir Croaks-a-Lot's nose twitched. He wrinkled it, sniffed the air, and felt nothing. No sneeze, but definitely something else. A smell. Not flowers, not mud, not tea leaves. It was faint, like candy and smoke. He turned to the Queen. "Your bloominess, might I take a short hop through the garden? Something smells off." He turned to the Queen. "Your bloominess, might I take a short hop through the garden? Something smells off." She nodded. "A knight must always follow his nose." He saluted, then turned and tiptoed through the freshly raked moss path. The parade wouldn't begin for another hour. Plenty of time for a royal sniff around. Past the rose archways, beyond the sleepy snapdragons, Sir Croaks-a-Lot followed the mysterious scent. It led to a forgotten patch at the edge of the garden, behind a wall of curling vines and beside an old watering can tower. No one came here anymore. It was the place where weeds and secrets liked to grow. And in the middle of the patch stood a single strange plant. It was taller than the giggle blossoms, with rainbow-colored petals that shimmered and curled like a cinnamon roll. Its stem pulsed gently, and at the tip was something odd, a silvery puffball. Sir Croaks-a-Lot approached slowly. He sniffed, and sproing! The puffball launched a tiny burst of sparkling dust right at him. Achoo! It was the biggest sneeze yet. It sent the watering cans tumbling, shook 3 nearby bushes, and startled a line of ants into forming a triangle. "Oh no!" he croaked, blinking. "Another sneezing flower?" He leaned closer and read the tiny tag at the base. "Boo bloom. Warning. Unpredictable pollen. Do not plant in sunny, loud, or laughy areas." Sir Croaks-a-Lot stared. "Who planted you here?" Then came a flutter. Tiny wings, a blur of blue. The fairy popped out from a daffodil and squeaked, "Oh no, you found it!" Sir Croaks-a-Lot turned to her. "Another one of yours?" She winced. "Yes, but this one is still in testing. I thought I buried the seed too deep for it to grow." "Well," he sniffled, "it grew." "I'm so sorry," she sighed. "The boo bloom was made to puff only during laughter, but I guess it mixed with the giggle blossom seeds and bloomed in the wrong spot." Sir Croaks-a-Lot shook his head, still trying not to sneeze again. "This flower's even sneakier than the last." The fairy nodded. "It needs to go. I can take it back to the seed lab." She fluttered to the boo bloom, gently wrapping it in a cloth pouch lined with sneeze dust. The plant gave one last poof before she sealed it tight. "Whew," said Sir Croaks-a-Lot. "You saved the parade." The fairy smiled. "And you saved the Queen's garden again." They walked back to the heart of the pond together, just as the trumpet-sounding toes began to play the parade song. Sir Croaks-a-Lot returned to his spot beside the Queen, who noticed the bits of glitter on his face. "All sorted?" she asked. He gave a firm nod. "Another mysterious sneezer found and removed." "Good," she said, "because your float is coming up next." "My what?" Just then, a giant lily leaf rolled forward, pulled by 2 beetles wearing bow ties. On top was a platform with a giant tissue tower, a windmill that spun when someone sneezed, and a throne made of puffball petals. A sign on the front read, "Sir Croaks-a-Lot, Defender of Sneezes." The crowd clapped. The kazoo band tooted. The ducks flapped and quacked to the beat. Sir Croaks-a-Lot laughed, stepped aboard, and waved at the cheering crowd. And when someone tossed a pinch of sparkle dust his way, kerchoo!
The tissue towers spun, the windmill whirled, and everyone cheered. For in Lily Pond Kingdom, even a sneeze could be a celebration, especially when shared by the bravest frog of them all. The Lily Pond Sneeze Parade slowly drifted into the soft golden glow of early evening. As the crowd of frogs, beetles, snails, fairies, and ducklings returned to their cozy homes and curled up nests, laughter and cheerful sneezes echoed gently through the reeds. Tiny paper banners swayed in the breeze, still fluttering from trees and cattails. Sir Croaks-a-Lot sat alone on his float, now parked beneath the glow of firefly lanterns. His sash had glitter on it, his acorn helmet sat crooked on his head, and his big green feet dangled over the side of the lily leaf like a tired child's. He let out a long sigh, a good kind of sigh. The kind you make when your belly is full of tea and tadpole biscuits. The kind you make when your heart is full of everything. "Phew," he whispered. "What a day." His nose wasn't twitchy anymore. His armor was muddy in places, but his spirit felt shiny as ever. A gentle flutter of wings landed beside him. It was the tiny blue-haired fairy holding a tiny glowing bundle wrapped in petal cloth. "For you," she said shyly, holding it out. Sir Croaks-a-Lot blinked. "A gift?" She nodded, placing the bundle gently in his hands. "It's something special. I made it just for you." He opened it slowly. Inside was a tiny crystal bottle shaped like a raindrop. It shimmered with soft light, and the bottle was the smallest puff of golden dust, just a swirl, like one last giggle caught in a jar. "It's one single safe sneeze," the fairy explained. "Not the kind that flips lily pads or sends snails tumbling. Just a soft one for when you need a memory." Sir Croaks-a-Lot blinked, then blinked again. "A memory?" She smiled. "Of today, of everything, of the time you turned your sneezes into smiles." He looked down at the bottle and clutched it gently to his chest. "I'll treasure it," he croaked. The fairy fluttered upward and twirled once in the warm night air. "You're the bravest frog I know, not just because of your armor, but because you let everyone hear you sneeze and didn't hide it." Sir Croaks-a-Lot laughed quietly. "I suppose even knights need to learn how to let things out." The fairy winked, "especially from their noses." Then, like a dandelion seed caught in a breeze, she floated into the stars. Sir Croaks-a-Lot watched her go until the last sparkle of her wings faded behind a cattail. The pond was calm now. He hopped off the float and walked to his favorite spot near the willow tree. The tree's branches danced like sleepy ribbons in the wind. "Hello again, Willow," he whispered. The tree hummed softly. "Hello, brave frog. I found the last flower, and I didn't sneeze the kingdom away." The tree chuckled. "I never doubted you. How does your nose feel now?" He sniffed. "Peaceful, like a pond without ripples." He sat beneath the willow, looking out across the moonlit water. His helmet glowed faintly in the silver light.
His sash caught the shimmer of nearby fireflies. For the first time in many days, his whole body relaxed. And then, just the tiniest tickle, a twitch, a squiggle in his nostril. He blinked, looked at the bottle of giggle dust in his hand, and smiled. Maybe just one for the memory. He uncorked the bottle. The dust shimmered upward. He closed his eyes and softly, "Look-a-choo!" A gentle breeze rolled across the pond. The willow tree gave a sleepy rustle. A single lily petal floated across the surface of the water and settled near Sir Croaks-a-Lot, wrapped himself in his green cape, tucked the bottle safely beneath his lily pillow, and lay down under the tree with a quiet yawn. Somewhere in the distance, the duck choir sang a bedtime lullaby. The snails tucked themselves into mossy beds. The giggle blossoms slept in their corner, safe and sneeze-free. And the bravest knight in the kingdom? He snored, just a little, like a frog who had nothing left to prove.